What's going on, everybody out there? This video you're watching is the Year in Wrestling 2009 Part 2. I'll be talking about probably from May 09 until the end of SummerSlam, to the end of August. Up first, I'm going to start with Judgment Day, WWE. Judgment Day, I think there wasn't a SmackDown pay-per-view anymore. It was both brands were on the show. Up first, we had Mickie James defeat Beth Phoenix in a decent match. Main events were Batista defeated WWE Champion Randy Orton by disqualification. World Heavyweight Champion John Cena defeated The Big Show. And then after that, I think this was this was either at Judgment Day or Backlash, where Cena defeated Edge, or then he defeated Big Show at Judgment Day. But I think it was Backlash 09. I forgot to mention in Part 1 of the Year in Wrestling 2009. Big Show picked up John Cena, threw him through a giant spotlight. He threw him through it. That was a pretty insane spot. It was pretty crazy. Cena, supposedly, his back was all bloodied and bleeding, but I don't remember seeing if it really was. They just kept putting towels on his back when they took him out of the spotlight. But it was a pretty fucking awesome spot to do at the end of the pay-per-view Backlash. So at Judgment Day, John Cena got his revenge. And Cena beat The Big Show. So to retain, or he wasn't World Heavyweight Champion. John Cena was not World Heavyweight Champion. He just defeated Big Show. World Heavyweight Champion was Edge. He defeated Jeff Hardy at Judgment Day. On to the next WWE pay-per-view, which was Extreme Rules. The main events were John Cena again defeated The Big Show in a submission match. By June 09, I was already sick of the John Cena Big Show feud, and I'm glad hopefully it ended soon. Then we had Jeff Hardy defeat Edge in a ladder match to win the World Heavyweight Championship. But then CM Punk's music hit. The match was over. CM Punk was cashing in his Money in the Bank. Punk cashes in, beats Jeff Hardy. First he hit him, I believe, with a GTS. Jeff Hardy kicked out. But then Punk hit Jeff Hardy with another GTS. This time Jeff Hardy did not kick out. So Punk cashes in, becomes the new World Heavyweight Champion at Extreme Rules. And the ladder match Edge and Jeff Hardy had was pretty awesome. I really enjoyed it. Now on to the Bash pay-per-view, 2009, the Bash. 2008, the Bash, we saw Shawn Michaels bleed a lot against Chris Jericho. The Bash main events were Jeff Hardy defeating, first we had Michelle McCool defeat Melina to win the Women's Championship, I believe for the first time. I'm pretty sure before Michelle McCool was a Divas Champion before, but she won the Women's title by defeating Melina at the Bash. Melina, I thought, was always a great talent in the ring and pretty good at promos. And she was very good at screaming because she used to always scream at ringside when she was with Eminem. But Melina was a great talent. Michelle McCool was decent in the ring. She was pretty good. But I was never a fan of Michelle McCool in the ring. I'm sure she's a nice person outside the business. After that, Melina lost the women's title. After that, we had Jeff Hardy defeat World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk by disqualification. And by late June into July into SummerSlam, we had Jeff Hardy we had a Jeff Hardy CM Punk feud. That was pretty awesome. I enjoyed the stuff they did. CM Punk even brought up Jeff Hardy's drug past, brought that up to get heat. Up next, we had John Cena defeat The Miz. This was, I believe, over and over. The Miz had an anti-John Cena shirt. He had John Cena's name on a shirt with a X crossing his name out or something like that. And Miz was basically starting to get cheered by fans that were sick of John Cena being shoved down our throats. But John Cena defeated The Miz. So Miz was basically buried after getting over a little bit. Or starting to get over in a mini feud with Cena. Main event was WWE Champion Randy Orton defeating Triple H in a 3 Stages of Hell match. I don't remember this match, but I'm sure it was good. I really should go back and watch it on the network. 3 Stages of Hell, Orton versus Triple H. It sounds like it was good. Or that's those 2 guys in a 3 Stages of Hell match. That's something I should watch soon. So that was a bash. Randy Orton retained the WWE Championship, and CM Punk retained the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, Night of Champions, which was a July pay-per-view. Main events were Mickie James defeated Maurice to become the Divas Champion. And I believe Mickie James, after she won the Divas title, she also was a former women's champion. So I believe Mickie James was the first to win the Divas and women's title. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure Mickie was one of the first to hold both titles. Before, or she didn't hold the women's at the same time, but she was a former women's champ. Up next, we had ECW champion. No, that was SummerSlam. Up next, we had women's champion again, Michelle McCool, defeat Melina. WWE champion Randy Orton defeated Triple H and John Cena in a triple threat, which I'm sure was pretty good. I think I remember it. Cena, Orton, Triple H at Night of Champions 09 was pretty good. Intercontinental Champion Rey Mysterio defeated Dolph Ziggler, and Jeff Hardy defeated CM Punk to win the World Heavyweight Championship. So going into SummerSlam 09, Jeff Hardy was the new World Heavyweight Champion and would take on CM Punk again in a tables, ladders, and chairs match for the World Heavyweight title. Now I'm going to talk about TNA Wrestling. TNA, I talked about Lockdown in the last video. So I'm going to talk about Sacrifice 2009. The main events were Sting, or AJ Styles, for the Legends Championship, which was a pretty stupid belt, but Booker T debuted the Legends title because basically he was in the Main Event Mafia and he could do whatever he wanted. Legends title would eventually become the TV title. It was a giant, ugly belt. I believe they still have it in TNA now, and it's the King of the Mountain title. Anyways, AJ Styles defeats Booker T in an I Quit match. I don't know who the Legends champion was. It was either AJ or Booker. Sting defeated Kurt Angle in a 4-way Ultimate Sacrifice match where Jeff Jarrett and Mick Foley were involved. Where there was a ladder at the end, or the sacrifice, involved a ladder where whoever got up the ladder, I guess, and grabbed something would become the leader of the Main Event Mafia. Main Event Mafia, my thoughts on them, they were a pretty good group, but they didn't last that long. But I enjoyed them when Sting was dressing up in suits. We got a different side of Sting. He didn't wear his face paint, and that was pretty cool. I mean, he still wore his face paint when he wrestled, but when he wasn't wrestling, in promos and backstage promos, backstage segments, Sting was in a suit with no face paint. And I believe Kurt Angle was in the Mafia, Kevin Nash, Booker T in the beginning. And then Scott Steiner would even join the Main Event Mafia. And they even had a Main Event Mafia chick. I believe Tracy Brooks was also in the Main Event Mafia. So Sacrifice Sting won the Ultimate Sacrifice match. So he was, and Sting and Kurt Angle, I believe, were in a feud at the time, fighting over who should be the leader of the Main Event Mafia. This was pretty good stuff. On Impact, either Sting or Kurt Angle, one of them spit in each other's face. Then they started brawling on the outside of the ring. It had to be broken up. That was a pretty good feud. It was pretty good stuff between Sting and Kurt Angle when they were fighting over who the leader should be of the Main Event Mafia. Up next, Slammiversary, TNA's June 09 pay-per-view. X Division champion Suicide defeated Jay Lethal, Consequences, Creed, Alex Shelley, and Chris Sabin in a King of the Mountain match. Christopher Daniels defeated Shane Douglas. For some reason, I don't know why. Shane Douglas, I have no clue why he was in the ring in 2009. He shouldn't have been on a pay-per-view match, in a pay-per-view match. Shane Douglas' time has passed. By 2009, the guy was not in great shape and he should have not been in the ring. But when he was in his prime, in the 90s, I was a fan of Shane Douglas when he was in ECW. We all know his WWF run did not work. It was shit. When he was Dean Douglas, that was awful. And that's not Shane's fault. That's WWF's fault for giving him this shit, lame-ass Dean Douglas gimmick. Next, we had Knockouts champion Angelina Love defeat Tara. So Angelina Love retained the title. I was very happy about that. I was a huge Angelina Love fan, still am. Abyss and Taylor Wilde defeated Raven and Daphne in a Monsters Ball mixed tag match. So Abyss, Taylor Wilde win it. And I believe Daphne, this was not the match where Daphne would get chokeslammed through a barbed wire board and break her leg. That was at Bound for Glory 2009, where Daphne would sadly break her leg getting chokeslammed through that barbed wire board off the top rope or off the turnbuckles. But Raven, Daphne, they were a pretty good team. I enjoyed this mixed tag match. It was pretty damn entertaining. Taylor Wilde supposedly retired, left TNA to retire. She was pretty damn young when she retired. I think she started a wrestling school in Canada, but I'm not sure about that, if she still has a wrestling school. But Abyss and Taylor Wilde, they made a pretty good team, and the mixed tag match was good. It was, again, Monsters Ball mixed tag, so there were no rules. And Taylor Wilde did a splash off the stage, I believe, through Daphne through a table. So that was pretty fun and cool to see. Up next, we had Sting defeating Matt Morgan, which was a pretty good match. I believe Matt Morgan was trying to get in the Main Event Mafia or something like that. And Sting had to basically shut him down and beat him to shut him up. At least I think so. A lot of storylines and stuff that happened in 2009. I don't remember much of it, but I remember some of it. I mean, reading this stuff, I start to remember a lot that happened. So, up next, Beer Money defeated Team 3D for the World Tag Team titles. Kurt Angle up next defeated defending TNA World Champion Mick Foley, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe to win the World Heavyweight title in a King of the Mountain match. So it was pretty awesome to see Kurt Angle win the TNA World title. I think he had it before in 2008. or 7 maybe. But it was good to see Kurt Angle become TNA World Champ again. The guy was still in his prime in 2009. Even though he's beat up in 2016, his body's pretty beat up. But Kurt Angle can still go with anybody in the ring. He could go and probably outwork and out-wrestle a guy 20 years younger than him. My opinion. Kurt Angle still has it, in my opinion. And I'd like to see him in the WWE before he retires for one more run. Up next, Victory Road. The main events were on the main event Mafia, Booker T. First, we had Kevin Nash defeat AJ Styles to win the Legends title. Again, the Legends title was a pretty stupid idea, in my opinion. Booker T and Scott Steiner defeated Beer Money to win the World Tag Team titles. So Kevin Nash has gold. Now Booker and Scott Steiner have gold. Will Sting get his world title back? I don't know. Samoa Joe defeated Sting. They had a good match. They usually always did. World Champion Kurt Angle defeated Mick Foley in the main event. Now on to Hard Justice, which was August 2009 TNA pay-per-view. Main events were Kevin Nash defeating Mick Foley to win the Legends title again. I thought he was the Legends champion. He must have lost it in a month. World Tag Team Champions Booker T, Scott Steiner defeated Team 3D. And the main event was World Champion Kurt Angle defeating Sting and Matt Morgan in a triple threat. So that was good. Now I'm going to go back and talk about SummerSlam. And then after that, I'll be done with this part 2 of my year in wrestling. I gotta get back to SummerSlam. Here we go. SummerSlam 2009. Beth Phoenix won a 15 Diva Battle Royal. That was pretty fun to watch. I was always a fan and always respected Beth Phoenix in the ring. She was very good. Intercontinental Champion Rey Mysterio defeated Dolph Ziggler. They had a very good match. MVP defeated Jack Swagger. The Unified Tag Team Champions, The Big Show and Chris Jericho defeated Crime Time. And a lot of people probably thought Crime Time was going to win and finally become tag champs. I think they were the World Tag Team Champions at one time, but they didn't win the Unified Tag titles. Kane defeated the Great Khali, which was god-awful and should have not been on the SummerSlam pay-per-view. I didn't care ever to see a Kane Great Khali feud, ever. Up next, we had D-Generation X reunite. Shawn Michaels, Triple H got a pretty big pop for reuniting. They came out on a tank. It was a pretty awesome entrance. Very good entrance. I believe they had soldiers coming around the tank, coming down the entranceway. Anyways, D-Generation X defeats Legacy, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase Jr. in a pretty damn good tag match. ECW Champion Christian defeats William Regal. I'm sure they had a good match. They are two very good workers. Regal a little bit better than Christian, but Christian was still good. WWE Champion Randy Orton defeated John Cena again. I don't know why Orton and Cena had to start feuding again in 2009. Even though they did some good stuff, they did great work at Breaking Ground where Orton beat Cena with a Singapore cane and handcuffed him to the ring post, or to the turnbuckles. So that was good. Then at Bragging Rights, Cena and Randy Orton had a 60-minute Iron Man match, which was pretty entertaining. But at SummerSlam 09, Orton versus Cena, to me, was boring. But the feud picked up and it got better at Breaking Ground. So Randy Orton retains a WWE Championship. And then Cena and Orton would go at it again at Hell in a Cell, inside the Hell in a Cell, which was a pretty good match. Main event was CM Punk defeating and becoming the new World Heavyweight Champion, defeating Jeff Hardy in a TLC match. This match was pretty brutal, pretty awesome. CM Punk did a suplex off the top rope, suplexed Jeff Hardy on top of a ladder. That looked like it hurt like a motherfucker. That looked like it really hurt, and I'm sure it did. And Jeff Hardy climbed up a giant, probably 15, 20-foot ladder on the outside of the ring, climbed up it, dove off it, taking CM Punk out, crashing through a table, through the announcer's table. That was an awesome spot. So the TLC match at SummerSlam 2009 was very good. I really enjoyed it, and it was good. So this ends my year in wrestling 2009. Part 2 video, I'll be back sometime, maybe on the weekend. I'll do my part 3 in my final video for the year in wrestling. In part 3 of 09, I'll talk about the 10th anniversary of SmackDown. I'll talk about that show. And then I'll give my thoughts on the other pay-per-views, and then I'll be done with 2009, and I'll be starting part 1 of 2010, the year in wrestling. I'll be doing all my year in wrestling videos. I'll still be doing them all throughout March and probably into April. I got other shows that I got planned that are not year in wrestling shows. I got fantasy booking of NXT TakeOver Dallas. I got fantasy booking of WrestleMania 32 still to do. And I got my top WrestleMania matches, 10-1 still to do. I got to do a UFC prediction for Conor McGregor fight against one of the Diaz brothers. What else do I got planned? NXT review. I'm doing an NXT review tonight, so hopefully you check that out. And then I'll still be doing year in wrestling videos until I'm up to 2015, or until I finish with 2015, the year in wrestling. When will I finish? Probably by the end of April, I'll be done with year in wrestling videos. Anyways, go back, watch all my other year in wrestling videos if you got time. Or go back and watch any of my other videos, fantasy booking videos in my playlist. Fantasy booking of the WWE Championship Tournament at Survivor Series. I booked the entire tournament the way I wanted to see it. I booked TLC, I booked Royal Rumble, and I booked Fastlane. I will be booking WrestleMania sometime in March. And TakeOver Dallas. I'll also be fantasy booking. So, hope you enjoyed the Year in Wrestling 2009 Part 2. Enjoy NXT tonight if you're watching. I'll be live tweeting it at TNA WWE Guy, or maybe I'll be tweeting NXT from at NXT WWE Guy. Have a great day. Have a great Wednesday night. Bye for now.